Welcome to the Smart HVAC Marketing Podcast, the podcast for HVAC contractors who are ready to quit screwing around and begin growing their business. Powered by Rival Digital. On this show, you'll hear from industry leaders and become equipped with the tools and knowledge you need to build a world-class business. Now, here's your host, Eric Thomas. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Smart HVAC Marketing Podcast. My name is Eric Thomas. I'm the host of the show. Before we get going, you all know it's coming, and I'm going to have to do it anyways. If you are listening to this show and you find any value out of it, you've enjoyed it, you've laughed, you've cried, you've rethought the way you've run your business, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world to us. Today, we are joined by Zac Garside from Power Selling Pros, and we are excited to dive into some different topics here in regards to call centers and CSRs and how you can help increase the conversion rate from inbound calls and all that good stuff. So, Zac, how you doing?
What's up? I'm just peachy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Peachy is awesome.
Yeah, man.
Are you in Georgia?
No. I'm in Utah.
Utah. All right. Yeah. Zac, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell our listeners a little bit more about what you do over at PSP.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell a story to kick it off, I suppose. So 6 years ago, I was a college freshman, and Brigham Dickinson, who many people may know, is the founder of Power Selling Pros. He and my dad were friends when I was growing up, and I've always had sort of a thing for speaking and coaching. So he came to me one day and said, "Hey, you want to coach customer service people?" And I said, "Yeah, what the heck? Let's do this." So I got a gig at Power Selling Pros coaching CSRs and just loved it. Kind of loved the industry. I thought that the home services provided a really awesome career path for not only myself, but people all over who are in my age group, you know. And it was significantly better than all of the, stuck up giant companies that came and recruited from universities, like the financial sector and the tech world. Yeah. I took a stab at that stuff and it didn't quite work out. So I decided to stick with the trades. So today, I'm the director of marketing for Power Selling Pros. And it's my job to persuade contracting business owners that their CSRs need coaching. That's what I do. So I spread the good word. I talk about turning your call center into a profit center and give people all the tools they need in hopes that eventually they'll come back and say, "Hey, you know what? This is awesome. Can you do it for me?"
Yeah.
That's all about.
Well, we'll put those skills to the test on this episode, and we'll see if any of our listeners are persuaded by the end of this of this podcast to possibly look into Power Selling Pros. So let's I guess first off, you're in Utah, so when you say like the big tech sector and stuff, I honestly have no clue what you're talking about because I live on the East Coast, so we're not near like Silicon Valley or anything. So what's that like?
So you ever heard of Silicon Slopes?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, Utah Silicon Slopes.
Okay.
And when I graduated from college, I think blue collar companies don't recruit universities for plumbers and technicians. When I was in all my career fairs as a college student, I never spoke to a heating and air company. The closest I ever got was CLED, Certified Electrical Distributors. They came and recruited, but that was pretty much it. It was all tech and, financial services. So all my friends went to work at this big tech company, and I followed suit. At one point, I left Power Selling Pros to go work at a tech company.
Wow.
And it sucked. It was really, really terrible. It's sexy and it's cool, very exciting. They've got lots of money and it's a really neat experience kind of seeing that side of the world. But as an employee, it was just soul sucking. It was just soul sucking to go in every day and just feel like a number on a spreadsheet. When I was employee like number 200 or something, 250 at this company. And I only was there for 4 months before I quit. And by then it had more than doubled. I mean, it's just rapid growth, which some people love, don't get me wrong, but I make way more money in the trades. I think if you're looking to recruit or hire millennials or Gen Zs, just clip this podcast and go send it out with all your job ads. Like,
Yeah.
look, we're telling you, the trades is a great place to work.
Yeah.
Trades are sick. There's just such freedom and such great income potential that nobody really pays
Yeah.
attention to.
What I like about it in particular is that it's not like the same thing every single day. Like there's new challenges to be solved every day in this industry versus when you work. I mean, I worked at my first job out of college was working at a big like Fortune 50 healthcare company doing web development. And it
Mm,
was like, you get there every day, you do the same thing or making websites or doing
yeah.
the same thing every single day. And you're like, at some point it's just like, all right, there's got to be more to this. So yeah, that's what I like. I like the most about the trades is every day there's new challenges to tackle and new boulders to move and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's dive right into Power Selling Pros. So let's talk about some of the challenges facing call centers today. What
Yeah.
are some of the big things that you're seeing that contractors are facing when it comes to call centers?
There's really five. When we started Power Selling Pros, it was one thing. It was pretty much call conversion.
Mhm.
Brigham, I think I may have mentioned he was doing pay-per-click advertising for a plumbing company here in Salt Lake City. And they came to him and said, Brigham, we got to let you go. The leads you're generating are no good. They just want a ballpark price. They just want to know when we can come out there. They just want to talk to a technician. So they call conversion from you're getting 100 calls, you're only booking 50 or 60 is the first problem, right? And so that's really the first thing we seek to address is let's get your call conversion up to 90%. You should book 90% of the calls that come into your company. And that's really all there is to it. There's no reason not to. They need you. They need someone. If they don't book with you, they're going to book with somebody else. You should be the one to book that call. So that's number one. Number two is customer experience. Tommy Mello, when he referred somebody to us a while back, and if you people may be familiar with who Tommy Mello is, right? He wrote Home Service Millionaire, A1 Garage Door.
Mhm.
And when he referred somebody to us a few weeks back, he told them in their conversation, when my mom answered the phone, I never had to worry about making a sale as a technician because she set it up perfectly. I'm probably paraphrasing, right? Like this,
Yeah.
this is third hand. Tommy told this person, told me, telling you now. But a CSR should create such an amazing experience over the phone that by the time your technician gets there, the customer's ready to move forward. They're ready to take action because the
Yeah.
person who took their call was fantastic. Plus, if you're not amazing over the phone, like if you do not absolutely blow me away with fantastic customer service and ask amazing questions that just help me feel heard and seen and understood, if you can't do that, just let me book online. Just just make it all automated.
Yeah.
Put robots on there. There's really no difference at that point. You've got to wow the customer. That's the second thing. The third is you've got to have team alignment. And that's another problem that we try to address for a lot of people. The problem there is Sally's amazing when she answers the phone, and your customers love talking to Sally. But then Joe answers, and it's the worst thing ever. It's absolutely terrible. And so there's no alignment there. There's no consistency from customer A or to customer B's experience or the first CSR to the second CSR. It's all just, it depends on who answers the phone, really. And
Yeah.
that is no way to run your call center. The fourth thing is there's a lot of, we hear this all the time. I call it the cool uncle effect. If your mom and dad tell you to clean your room, you never touch it. You don't care. But then your cool uncle comes over and he's like, your room looks disgusting, Eric. And then next thing you know, your room's clean because your cool uncle to get your act together.
Yeah.
And that's another reason people reach out to us. If it's not call conversion or customer experience or team alignment, I've been preaching this stuff. I'm doing it until I'm blue in the face. I tell my CSRs all the time how to get their act together, or how to really amaze the customer, and they don't do it. What gives? And oftentimes,
Yeah.
well, you're the boss. Like they see you every day, and sometimes they just need that third party voice to come in and deliver the message and just
Yeah.
say it in our way, and that's what gets it through. It gets it across and gets them to actually change. The fifth and final thing is we just take it off people's plates. People know they value training. They know their people want training. An employee who's trained is far more productive than an employee who's not, but they don't have time. So they say, hey, will you do it for me? And then we just take it off their plate.
Yeah.
Those are really the five core problems that contractors run into that cause them to reach out to us and get some coaching.
Yeah. So kind of digging into the cool uncle thing. What what's a way that I guess like a boss or maybe a CSR manager or someone can get their people to, I guess, adhere some of these changes in the call center without having to call in, the cool uncle. Like if they're listening to this right now and they're like,
I want to do it myself.
yeah, I want to try doing this myself first, or um, and this could be for anything. It doesn't have to just be for CSR because as managers, you see this everywhere. If you could be managing a service department, or you could be managing a plumbing division, and it might just come down to the fact that the people might not respect you. But what's something that you think, some advice you would give in regards to getting them to listen to their parents before listening to the cool uncle?
Excellent question. I learned this actually recently, listening to a guy named Brett Ledbetter. He doesn't work in the trades. He works with sports teams, college professional athletes, specifically their coaching
Hmm.
staff, and he helps them create winning environments in their teams. And he was asked, "What is the common thread you see in all of the teams that you go in and try to help?" Right? Every situation is so unique and so contextual. So if I were to give a blanket statement and say, "Oh, here's how to do it," it probably wouldn't be effective for 90% of the people listening. But I love the way he answered this question, because he basically said the thing you have to really get right is how you define, manage, and model your expectations. Have you defined for your CSRs exactly what success looks like? Do they know what their booking rate should be? Do they know what a wow customer experience looks and feels and sounds like? Do they know how to offer an additional service, sell a maintenance plan, get an upsell on a drain cleaning or a duct cleaning or an IEQ product? Have you defined your expectations clearly enough? Most of the time, they haven't. They
Hmm.
just think it's answering the phones. How hard could it possibly be?
Yeah.
So you've got to really define your expectations. Number one. Number two is you've got to manage your expectations as well. People, there's a reason in elementary school it's first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, right? Until 12th grade. And then you go to college. I mean, you don't have to go to college. I certainly hated college, but uh, we grow in progression. It's a progression. You
Yeah.
go from in the CSR world, our program is actually structured level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And so your CSRs grow over time as they master more complex skills, and they're able to go from following a script to creating a unique experience for every single customer that calls in and offering an additional service on virtually every single call.
Yeah.
So you have to manage your expectations and look for small gains over time, as opposed to giant moonshots right off the bat. They're not going to
Yeah.
respond the first time you try to teach them. They're just not. And then the third thing is modeling the expectations. I think the biggest mistake that people in general, business owners, managers, service managers, teachers, coaches, trainers, you name it, is they try to explain the answer to everything. They try to explain what they're looking for from their team. Just model it.
Hmm.
Literally, just do the thing that you want them to do. Show them how it's done.
Yeah.
Last Monday, I was visiting a company for a full day of CSR training,
Hmm.
and they were asking some really complex questions. And if I were to just give them an answer like, "Oh, you should do it like this," there's no guarantee that would work. Every call is so different. So instead, I just said, let's role play it. Let's practice it. All right, I'll be the CSR. You be the customer. I want you to be the most relentless customer you can possibly be. Just badger me for a price until I cave, and then I demonstrate how it's done. I actually answered their phones while I was in their office that day to demonstrate how this stuff goes. So as a business owner, if you want to do it yourself, that's great. You got to define, manage, and model your expectations. If you can't do that, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're looking for. You
Yeah.
have to do those three things really, really well, and most people miss that.
Yeah. Well, I like the, like show don't tell type of deal, where especially with CSR related roles. I mean, like you said, there's a million different scenarios that you could role play, and a million different, ways a phone call could go. It's better to just, show them versus saying, "Oh, you should have asked this question instead," or "You should have done this
Yeah.
instead."
Let me give you
So
another script. Here's your 15th script. Like, go add
y-
this to the.
Yeah.
Just model it. Just set some principles that apply to every single call and model it. Show them how it's
Yeah.
done. Practice it with them.
So would you suggest that maybe not a CSR manager, but an owner of a heating and air conditioning company, because a lot of the listeners of this are owners or general managers or something along those lines. Would you suggest that maybe they should be just as good, if not better, at the CSR role than their CSRs, or at least have the understanding of how to take a call, like how to field a customer call?
That's a good question. You need to have empathy first. You need to empathize. When I hear a business owner say it's just answering the phones, and that doesn't happen a lot, but every once in a while, someone will say, it's just answering the phones. How hard could it be? And I'm like, it's harder than you think. It's not
Hmm.
like it's not the easiest thing in the world to talking to customers for 8 hours. So you got to have empathy, number one. And number two, you don't have to be better than them at it. That you shouldn't
Hmm.
be. Ideally, your CSR should be way better than you at answering the phones. If
Yeah.
you're better than all your employees at the stuff they do, you have a problem. You
Hmm.
want to hire people who are more skilled than you. But you do need to be willing to do it. You need to be willing to hop on the phone and embarrass yourself potentially. Um, yeah, I don't think a business owner needs to be great at answering the phones,
Hmm.
but they need to be willing to do what they're asking their people to do. They need to
Yeah.
be willing to say, let's do this together and pick up a phone call, and if necessary, fall flat on their face so that they can gain some greater perspective and really work collaboratively with their team to come up with a better process. Your team, because your team will trust you at that point. They see that like he or she is going to do exactly what they're asking me to do, and they're going to get my honest input on how we should approach it. I
Yeah.
think that's far more important than being skilled at it yourself.
Yeah. So do you all coach people to do role playing? Like, do you do role playing with your CSR clients that you have?
All the time, and people hate it.
Oh yeah. I hate role playing.
Yeah,
So
I don't
how,
even love role playing, and I do this for a living.
yeah.
But
It's
you correct.
it's nerve-wracking when you're in a room full of your peers and you're like, "Oh boy, I'm up next."
Yeah.
But it's there's definitely a ton of value in it. I even role play like podcast interview questions before
Really.
like the podcast, because I'm like, I got to make sure at least I've mapped it out in my head what I'm going to say. So how often do you all recommend companies to role play with their CSRs?
You can never do it too much. People hate it, but you it makes you good. It makes you
Mhm.
freaking good. And I wouldn't just role play. I would listen to your calls with it. So the way that we do it is we listen to the phone calls with the CSRs and play it back for them so they can hear it. And that not by itself will automatically make them better because they're going to
Mhm.
listen to themselves and they're going to think, I sound like that. That's really what it's like. And I guarantee you they're going to make changes just based on hearing themselves.
Yeah.
And then after you actually play the call with them so they can hear it, then you say, let's practice it now. Let's role play this part of the call where it all fell apart. The
Mhm.
customer told you they wanted to shop around. They were looking for a ballpark price. You couldn't give them exactly what they wanted, so they hung up. Let's practice that part right there until we get it right.
Yeah.
And everybody complains. Everybody gives the same complaint, which is, oh, it's just not the same. It's not natural and normal to role play like it is on the phone. That's great. That's fine. That means it should come even more naturally when you do get on the phone because you've
Uh-huh.
already done it in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
That combination, though, I mean, I think you should do it every week. Personally, I think a business, whoever does the one-on-ones or the interviews with the employees, should sit down and say, "Let's listen to your calls. Okay, let's practice it," and do that every single week for at least 30 minutes.
Mhm.
When we do it twice a month with the CSRs, so we get on with them every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and that's what we do. We just work through their calls with them. We practice. We give them feedback, hold them accountable, and it's just impossible not to get better that way. Listening to
Mhm.
yourself and practicing with a coach, how can you not improve?
Yeah. It's just like sports, a lot of people like they think that role playing is like torture or like punishment. They're like, "Oh, this is terrible. They're making me role play the first 15 seconds of this phone call from when I answered until I got their information." But it's just like sports. Like if you play baseball, I can only do this reference because I played baseball growing up, but like if you played shortstop, you took ground balls. And like you would take 10 ground balls, like practicing doing a double play, throwing it to second base. You would take 10 ground balls, throwing it to first base. You would take 10 ground balls, pretending that the bases are loaded and you're throwing it home. You
Yeah.
would do, and that was it. And it was like you're doing this every single day.
Over and over.
We weren't going out there at practice and saying, all right, guys, we're going to have a 2.5 hour game, real game simulation. And that's it. No, we'd go out there for an hour and it would be 10 minutes doing this one drill, 10 minutes doing this one drill, 10 minutes doing this one drill. And then we would go play a real game after that game and say, all right, we effed up here, here, and here. We're practicing those 3 things the next 2 days. So, and it's the same thing with role playing. Like the CSR is, naturally you're not going to want to role play an entire 10-minute conversation, but you can role play small parts of it where they struggle.
Reading. Right. But we do exactly what you're talking about with athletes. We just, the repetition of those little tiny pieces of it. Mm-hmm. We go over the greeting ad nauseum until they've mastered their greeting, because we know that a customer's judging you the moment they hear your tone of voice. If they don't like how you sound when you pick up that call, they're immediately thinking to themselves, I wish I'd have called someone else.
Yep.
Let me see if I can come up with a reason to hang up on this company. Let me see what excuse I can give them. Oh, it's the price. They tell you it's too expensive. And then the CSR convinces themselves, oh, it's the price. It's not the price.
Yeah.
Your competitors are not that differently priced. So the customer's going to make a choice based on that. It's how you sound when you pick up the phone. So we go over the greeting, the type of question you ask at the beginning of the call, what questions you ask to show that you understand them, what phrases you use to empathize when something's wrong, the words that you use to reassure them and to focus on what you can do for the customer, how you ask for their business. We just break it down to these tiny, tiny little pieces, because as you get better over and over again at perfecting each little tiny element of it, just like an athlete would, you got to work on your shoulder rotation when you're swinging the bat. You got to work on your hips. You got to work on your feet. Okay, next let's go to the infield and all these tiny little details. It's the same thing over the phone. Same thing in the home with your technicians. Same thing with your managers when they do meetings and one-on-ones. You got to get the reps on the little tiny details and zoom in on them.
Yeah, absolutely. So before someone calls, they typically go on Google or they get a referral from the Nextdoor app or a Facebook group or a family friend. Then they're saying, I'm looking for duct repair, or I'm looking for a quote for a new heating and air conditioning system. They do some looking around online. They go on your website and they either pick up the phone and call, or they fill out a contact form, or if you have the scheduling thing, they can schedule on your website. So let's just say they go on there and they fill out the contact form. What is some best practices that you believe a company should have in regards to the contact form experience?
That's a great question. First of all, why do you have forms on your website still? You can have chat and it can be 10 times faster. I'm being facetious, of course, right?
Yeah.
Forms still work to a degree. But speed, be quick, be as fast as you possibly can in getting back to them. When they fill out a form or anything of that nature, as soon as they click submit, it's a race, because they're going to go to someone else's website next. Mm-hmm. So be as fast as you possibly can is the best thing. I'm a huge advocate of web chat. I'm sure you guys probably install web chat on people's sites, right?
Yeah.
Rival Digital.
Oh yeah.
Dude, give them the fastest possible path to a solution. Yeah. A form is the equivalent. Forms were really great in like 2010, 2015. But it's basically a way of saying, click here and we'll see what happens next.
Yeah.
Like, no guarantee anybody's even going to respond.
Yeah.
So be as fast as humanly possible, and then give that customer a call. Don't email them back. Don't email them a response. Call them and say, hey, this is Zach with Power Selling Pros. I'm giving you a call because I just got your form, right? Give them the context of why you're calling. I just got your form saying you need some help with your air ducts, or you got an air conditioner that's blowing warm air. Tell me more. Mm-hmm. And then ask, tell me more. Yeah. I use tell me more all the time with my CSRs. It's the best first question to ask a customer in a situation.
Tell me more. I like that. There's your golden nugget for everyone listening. They always want to know which one it is. I think that's it right there. Tell me more.
Tell
Because
me
a lot of
more.
times people, I mean, I'm guilty of this too, and I try not to do this when hosting, the podcast. Some people just talk too much. Like I try my best to ask a question and then just like back off, but
Yeah.
like I feel like people do that even in like selling situations. They want to just go on and on and on instead of just saying, "What's the reason for your call?" Like
Yeah.
not, I mean, maybe not that direct, but tell me more about what's going on. How
Yeah.
can we help you today? And then just shut up and listen to them.
You can tell a CSR or salesperson or anybody for that matter is not confident in their skills if they keep talking. The more a CSR or technician talks in a persuasive selling situation, the less confident they are. The most confident ones ask questions and they shut up and they listen to the answer. They clarify for understanding and then they ask another question. As soon as you stop asking questions and start preaching to the customer or talking, you lose control because then they're going to start asking questions. And the person who asks the questions guides the conversation. So tell me more. How long has it been doing that? When did this happen? What brand is it? We can certainly help. When would you like us to come out? Let's get
Yeah.
some information. Let's take a look at the schedule together. Where are you located? Just question after question after question, strategically placed, asked with the right tone of voice. That's how you book 90+% of your calls and turn your call center into a profit center, really.
Boom. So are you guys in favor of collecting the contact information before all of the other diagnostic questions?
No, we want to connect with the customer first.
Okay.
Some people have a problem with that because software. They'll
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I use this software, and we can't do anything in the software until we get the customer's information." To which I say, use a sticky note. The customer experience is more important than your software process.
Yeah.
So I always answer the phone with, "Thanks for calling. Thanks for calling Power Selling Pros. This is Zach speaking. How can I make you smile today?" And then they say, "My air conditioner's not working," or I've got a leaky faucet, or I've got I set the thermostat to 73 and it's 68 degrees in my house. It's freezing. I don't know what's going on. I say, "Tell me more. When did you notice that? Tell me more. What else?" "Well, we can definitely help with that. I'm glad you gave us a call. When would you like us to come out?" And they say, "I want you to come out as soon as possible." And I'm not going to just give them that, right? And the next thing I'm going to say is, "All right, well, let's get some information and then let's take a look at the schedule together. Where are you located?" Now I can get their information, all that logistics. If
Yeah.
you go for the logistics at the beginning, again, just put a robot on your website, automate the whole thing. You're no different than a robot at that point. Connect with them first, empathize, show them you understand their problem and how it's affecting their life. Then you have permission to ask for their information. But if you
Yeah.
lead with the address and that stuff, it's essentially like going to the doctor and saying, "Doc, my head hurts. I've got this pounding headache. It's driving me crazy. I can't see out of my left eye." And the doctor starts with, "Well, who's your insurance provider?" You're not going to, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
give attention before you take information.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I actually never thought of it that way, where like the doctor uh, scenario that you just gave. Where, and another thing with doctors too is you go up and you tell the person at the front desk what's going on, and then the doctor comes in, and instead of looking at the clipboard saying, "Oh, you've got this, and this," they always say, "So tell me like what's going on."
Yep.
They have you say it again because there's always the second you're in there, you might say something different than what he's already gotten written down, but you might say something else that you may have thought of or missed when you were at the front desk.
Yeah. To that point, I always tell technicians to start their interactions with, once they're actually in the customer's home, they should start with, "Hey, the office has already briefed me on your situation, but if you wouldn't mind, could you tell me a little more in your own words what's going on?" And just again, be curious. You're not making them repeat themselves. You're being curious, and
Yeah,
curiosity is the key.
it's awesome. Well, we have a few more questions here before we wrap up. This one was something I was thinking about earlier when you were making your initial 5 points. What I what happens if you have a CSR who's like a rock star? They're awesome. They're I guess her name was Susie in your uh I guess in your example.
Yeah.
You got Susie who's amazing. She kills it. She decides she's going to go work for ABC Mechanical next door, and now you're stuck with Joe, and all the other people who aren't as good, where do you go from there?
Okay, I'll tell you actually. This happened last week. A business owner. This happened with me. This happened with a company we coached last week, and no one does this. A business owner whose CSRs we coach reached out to our director of operations last week and said, "Hey, my CSR just put in her 2 weeks notice. I don't want to lose her. Would you call her? Would you talk to her?" So our director of operations literally got on the phone with this CSR, asked her some questions, curiosity, right? Not judgment, just curiosity. What's going on? What do you want? We thought you liked it. What's the problem? Tell me specifically what your challenges are. Just digging and asking. And the CSR changed her mind. She decided to withdraw her 2 weeks notice and stick with the company. When I left Power Selling Pros to go work in tech, I would not have come back to PSP were it not for Brigham reaching out to me to see how I was doing and if I wanted to change of pace, wanted to come back. Follow up with your superstar employees who leave. Check in on them, see how they're doing. It's not always rainbows and butterflies on the other side. They may be in their minds wishing, gosh, I wish I could get my old job back. Like, this sucks. So the first thing is don't let them go all the way. Follow up, reach back out, see how they're doing. If you got your superstar technician who just left, reach out in a month and see if everything is exactly how he wanted it. If he wants to change of pace, he's invited to come back. If they do leave, though, and you want to figure out how to make sure your current team rises up to that level they were at, you, again, define, manage, model your expectations appropriately. Give your team principles to follow, not strict processes only. Processes are very effective for streamlining your operations, but when we train CSRs, you'd be shocked at how little we rely on scripting to teach them. We're not scripting the CSRs. We teach them 8 principles on every call. You should be positive. You should be confident. You should listen to the customer, show them that you care, reassure them you can help, ask for their business, build value before you give a price, and express your sincere gratitude. If you do those 8 things on every call, you're going to be a superstar. You will. It's not a script. There's a million different ways you can apply those principles. And doing it that way gives your team a lot of freedom, a lot of confidence to be themselves and to, if you script them, if you try to give them exact things they have to do, then they just get in their heads and they try to be safe. And they're more afraid of making a mistake than they are eager to make a difference. Yeah. And that's what you want to avoid there.
Yeah.
But so I digress.
So what, in your opinion, are the qualities of a good CSR? Maybe so I guess I'll take a step back on this question. Recruitment is always a challenge. Finding good CSRs is always a challenge. So when you're hiring for CSRs and you're in the interviewing process with these folks, what are some of the qualities that you would advise someone to be on the lookout for of a good CSR in the making?
That's a great question. Full disclosure, I'm not an expert in hiring, but I do know that we have our recruiting department. They look for attitude. Put simply, it's nice to have somebody with industry experience who knows the language. You can teach your CSRs the language of the industry, right? We put together these classes called HVAC 101 and Plumbing 101 to teach new CSRs how to speak the language of the industry, just because we believe so strongly that attitude is the most important thing. If your CSRs, those 8 traits I just mentioned, if they're positive, if they're confident, if they're great listeners, very empathetic, they're always focused on what they can do, not what they cannot do. If they're proactive in asking good questions to get the actual business, if they know how to build value and can kind of have that ability to sell a little bit and are grateful. I recognize that's kind of a long list, but the short answer is it's attitude, it's energy, it's how do people feel when they're interacting with them. Yeah. If they have that, that's the most important thing. You can teach them everything else.
Yeah. That reminds me of a story of a company. I think it's Yarborough and Sons, Tucker Yarborough. He was on a recruitment panel with me down at Service World Expo this year. And he was telling a story of a technician that they got, and the guy was working at Subway, and Tucker was in there, getting his lunch or dinner, every once in a while. And this kid was just constantly in there, just grinding and super happy. It was just the nicest, most down to earth Subway employee you've ever met in your life.
That's
and
awesome.
He was just constantly had a smile on his face and was happy and going above and beyond. And one day, Tucker or whoever, it might have been his father who was with them, they pretty much just said like, "Hey, we're hiring for, a decent amount per hour, probably more than what you get now. Would you be interested?" And this Subway, he was making sandwiches at Subway, and then like 2 years later, he's a service technician for an HVAC company, like with a full
Dude,
career.
nice.
And
I
it's
love it.
it's because he had a good attitude and a good work ethic. He didn't know a single thing about fixing heating and air conditioning systems, but
100%.
he had the attitude, which is what they needed.
Yeah. We trained a company a couple months ago. They have 40 technicians. Their highest earning technician is 19 years old.
Wow.
This kid's going to make over $200,000 this year, and he's 19. In an industry where people wear their experience like a badge of honor. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for 30 years. We have a long history. Everybody says the same stuff, right? Every website says trusted, reliable, friendly, kind, been in business since 1970. This kid's 19. He wasn't even alive in 1970. He is the highest performing technician at this company by far. And when we asked the team, why is so-and-so here so successful? What is the secret? One of the older guys in the back with all the experience said, he smiles too much. And I said, well, get a grin, buddy.
Yeah.
He's smiling his way to the bank is what he's doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Got to have that attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Zach, is there anything that I may have missed that you wanted to cover today in this episode?
I think the only thing I would add is going back to the question, how do you do it yourself? Be consistent. You're not going to be perfect training your people. You're not going to be perfect getting their performance up to the right level. But if you are wildly consistent about it, you and them will both get better over time. Yeah. Don't let training, a lot of companies will come to us and be like, oh, training, it's the flavor of the month. Don't let training be the flavor of the month. Make it something that you do every single week, not just as a group, but one-on-one. Do those one-on-ones with your team. If you do that every week, even if you have no clue what you're doing, but you just need to let your team know we're training right now. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to accomplish. We're trying to get better at our jobs. Set that aside of time. Do it consistently. You will be astonished at what happens in a year. You look back in a year and listen to a phone call from 12 months ago and think to yourself, holy crap, look at how dramatic the difference is just because of consistency.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just like you guys tell people with marketing, when somebody comes to you after 1 month and they're like, where's my leads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, obviously, you got to plant seeds and water it and make sure it's getting sunlight and all that good stuff. You can't just rip a tree out from next door, plant it in your yard and expect it to continue growing.
You got to give it time. You got to invest in it and build your reputation.
Absolutely. Well, Zach, I appreciate you joining me today on the podcast. What's a good way for folks to reach out to you if they are interested in learning more about Power Selling Pros?
PowerSellingPros.com. PowerSellingPros.com. You can schedule a free call with us. Either myself or Ryan Keenan will get on the phone with you, or you can request a free training sample. You just put your name and email on our website, and we'll send you a free sample of our training so you can take a look and see if it's right for you.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Zach, I appreciate you taking the time to join me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Eric. It's a pleasure.
Awesome.